And I will just kind of give you a quick introduction as to the ZP Developers Zone. So the ZP Developers Zone, I'm just going to make sure, the ZP Developers Zone is, well, if I play this video, that maybe that will help kind of explain it. So this is the ZP Developer Zone. You are members of that ZP Developer Zone. And the idea is that at the end of every month on the Thursday, we'll be doing webinars, and you'll be invited to those webinars. But of course, those webinars are open to a whole range of people, and it's quite nice that we have several hundred people attend those webinars, but you will be invited to those webinars. So as part of the ZP Developer Zone, there will be webinars, but for that, for your attendance, you will get e-certificates. I also think we'll be giving you copies of the slides that we give out there as well. So you'll be able to come to the webinars, you get copies of the slides, and you'll also get certificates to kind of show your attendance. The other part of being part of this developers zone is you will also be able to you'll also be able to have 5% discount off our product. So I might just go to our website very quickly, and so it kind of if I go onto the Zimmer & Peacock website, for example, we provide screen printed electrodes. We have quite a large range of screen printed electrodes, and so you'll be able to use your membership to get 5% off those. So you can go into the value sensors, decide that you want a pack of 20, maybe 25, and then you can get 5% off that, which is about 12.5 euros. So we also, as part of the developer zone, so you get to come to the webinars every Thursday. We're also doing, you come to the webinar every, the last Thursday of every month, you get the 5% discount. Also, you should also be getting a members pack pretty soon. So in the members pack, there's some nice merchandise. You'll also, it says it here that there's an online chat room. So what I'll do is I'll just bring the online chat room up here. I'll just pull it across. You can have a quick look at it. So I know some of you have joined already, and in here you can kind of create topics like I have a question which I will respell about lactate sensors, and I or one of the team will be online, and then we'll be able to answer that question for you. So it's quite nice that you'll be able to participate in these kind of exclusive chats. So I think that's a nice feature of being a member of this developer zone. And as I say, there's this once a week stream that's specifically for our members. So this is the stream that I'm doing now is actually exclusive to you guys. So what I was planning to do is we would do it. So let's say there's 4 weeks in a month. The first 3 weeks we would do exclusive streams like this one, and then on the fourth stream would be a big webinar where we'll do sort of quite a lot of technical, and also do the live demonstrations as well. And we will finish it off by giving you copies of the notes and also e-certificates as well. So, and I would say that this is a Q&A session now, so you can find out more here, but you guys are already members of this. So if I go to just the website for a second.
So there is a developer zone. You guys have joined it. So we've discussed that there's a 5% off selected products. There's a online community with chat. So if you're not in the chat room yet, reach out to Hasim and we'll get you into the chat. When we do our big webinars, where I do a sort of formal presentation and maybe Andre will do some work in the lab and you'll be able to view it in real time, there'll be an e-certificate for that. You'll get the members pack. This is a kind of Q&A session, this is the first Q&A session ever. And as we go along, we'll build it and we'll mature it, to make it sort of better. And as a member, you get to inform the direction of this network. So this network is really ZP's way of saying to you guys, okay, look, we're all very interested in, sensors, and and therefore we should all come together and interact and make the best sensors we possibly can. When you look at the future of mankind, we have the internet, and the internet is really good at data goes onto the internet and people can search for that data. But the big piece that's missing from the internet is the streams of data that come from biosensors. We live in clearly a chemical and a biological world. So where are the sensors to measure these biochemistry and this biology? So that so this network is about, let's make the sensors and let's get that data onto the internet or online. So we are part of that movement as part of the ZP Developers Zone. So I'm delighted that you are members of the ZP Developers Zone. As I say, questions in the daytime. Make sure that you talk to Hasim. Make sure that you're getting onto the chat room. You can chat to us here. This is me here, ZP Sensors. I can see Didi and Hasim are on now. So make sure you're on that. So that's my the first part of today's stream, was just to kind of get you guys infused and to join our ZP Developers Network, and we're delighted that you are. What I'm going to now do is I'm going to slightly change gears, because I also want to kind of make sure that we're moving forward in a technical way as well. So this is not going to be one of those big lectures or big, one of those big talks that we do. It's just going to do a small one, and I want to do it on something that I worked on last week. I hope you find it sort of interesting. So let me backtrack a bit now and talk about what we talked about in the last presentation, let's say. So I will use the example of glucose sensors. So if you go to our website and you go to biosensors, you'll find, for example, that we've got glucose sensors. And I encourage many of you, have a go at developing your own glucose sensor. The secret is they're not that difficult. Now, when you look at that data sheet, it has a working electrode and a reference electrode. So you sort of scroll down, there's a little picture of it here, and there's a working electrode, and here is this RE is the reference electrode. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is I want to talk about converting between reference potentials. So when you watch this video, we've got a really great zone, and I know I showed this video in the last webinar. I won't go on it. I won't go too heavily on it. But in the video, Andre tests a glucose sensor, and you'll notice, if I just zoom this up a bit, here, and he's putting a drop of glucose on, which is, or probably a drop of buffer on there onto the sensor. And then he goes to the software and he starts talking about the software. I'm going to pause in a minute. I'm going to pause here. And the reason I'm pausing here is it says here, I am applying a voltage of 650 millivolts to that sensor. So what that says there is I'm applying 650 millivolts. What it means is that when I was showing you the drawing earlier on, that 650 millivolts was between the reference electrode and working electrode. So 650 millivolts between the reference and working. So in that video, Andre is saying, I'm applying 650 millivolts between these two, okay? Now I'm going to get to the main point of what I want to talk about today. And I don't want to take up all you guys' time, so I'll be quite quick. But if you go to knowledge base, we've got an awful lot of information. And I would honestly say we have too much information. Link for the glucose sensor. Yeah, I can see somebody's asking us to link the glucose sensor. Team, if you can do that, that'd be great. I'm just watching the video and comments there. So we have an awful lot of information, and under FAQs, we have FAQs on electrochemistry. We have one about converting reference potentials. So this is kind of that, I want to say that academic part now is, what does that reference potential mean? When Andre in that video says, I'm applying 650 millivolts, what he's, that's fine. He's applying 650 millivolts between the working and reference. And then I say to you, but what does it actually mean? So what's happening there is he has a reference electrode on that sensor that's silver chloride. So he's applying 650 millivolts relative to silver chloride. But if he had another type of reference electrode, for example, a saturated calomel electrode, that 650 millivolts would not be 650 millivolts. It would be a different type of voltage. So in this diagram here, the scientist is applying 0.533 volts. That's 533 millivolts. But if they're really reporting this correctly, they would be saying, I've applied a voltage of 553 millivolts versus a silver chloride electrode at 3 molar sodium chloride. That's really what they should be saying. So often in biosensing, we will say, apply a voltage of 650 millivolts. If we were being really accurate, we should be saying 650 millivolts versus, and then we should be saying exactly what reference electrode we're using. Now, the absolute universal standard in electrochemistry is SHE, saturated hydrogen electrode. Nobody uses a saturated hydrogen electrode, certainly not for routine work, because they're really painful to set up. You're basically trying to bubble hydrogen over, I think it might be a platinum metal, and that's giving you your reference potential. So that's a very difficult reference electrode to deal with. So nobody wants to deal with the saturated hydrogen electrode, but that's the true 0 volts in electrochemistry. But because that's a hard electrode to deal with, most of the time in lab work, we're actually using these silver chloride electrodes. We used to use the saturated calomel electrode, SCE, but nobody uses them anymore because it's basically mercury, and there's no need to be, using mercury in the lab if you can avoid it. So my point is this: glucose sensors, we will have to apply a voltage between the working and reference. That voltage is often 650 millivolts, as you saw in the video, but we don't add the detail. It's 650 millivolts versus the reference. But if you're writing a scientific paper, for example, you should really be saying 650 millivolts versus the reference electrode that you're actually using. And then we do have quite a nice little calculator here, which if I click into this calculator, just loading up, and it's this. So in the example of Andre's scientific paper, Andre's video, he applied 650 millivolts. That means that, in fact, if he wanted to convert to different reference electrodes, 859, sorry, I should have put, this is millivolts here, 859 millivolts versus saturated hydrogen electrode, 615 millivolts versus saturated calomel, 109 millivolts versus the Fe2 plus, Fe2 plus, Fe3 plus electrode. And then there's another one here, the copper sulfate electrode, which does sometimes get used. And then that's 545 millivolts versus the copper sulfate electrode. So what I'm showing you here is, it's okay, most of the time, our Zimmer and Peacock sensors and screen printed electrodes have silver chloride reference electrodes. So you can just, you can talk about 500 millivolts versus reference and 250 millivolts versus reference. But we're just all assuming that it's silver chloride. Scientifically, we should actually be reporting, that it's actually which reference is it versus. And if you ever read a paper and it's like, and they say versus SCE, you can basically use a scale like this to convert between them. So, for example, no, not for example, so I can quickly say, if it's 500 on this one, and I was using a saturated calomel electrode, then I should really be applying 465 millivolts. So what I want to do then now is just kind of wrap up a little bit. I can see that Hasim is online, and he says link for glucose sensor. So, for example, what we can do afterwards is I will, in the chat room, I'll try and add some links in to some of the stuff that I've talked about today. I just want to do a quick summary now of the things we talked about. So, summary. Thank you for joining the ZP Developer Zone. The ZP Developer Zone is really ZP's passion for getting everyone who can to be part of this sort of biosensor development community. We think it really is part of humanity's future to have really good biosensors. And personally, I think electrochemical biosensors are a really good platform, so we're delighted. There's some practical benefits for this. You have discounts. You get to come in the chat room, and I can see Hasim is in the chat room at the moment. So please join the chat room. It's a good way of maybe asking a quick question. We'll try and be online as much as possible to answer those questions. When we do the webinars at the end of the month, every Thursday at the end of the month, there'll be an e-certificate, and you'll get a handout of the notes. You'll get the members pack, so follow up with us if the members pack doesn't arrive soon. There's a question and answer session. So, for example, today was just an introduction to the Developer Zone, but in the future, if you want to kind of make it more interactive by asking questions in the comments on YouTube, we can do that. And I want this to be kind of, I want the direction of the webinars and the content that we put out there to be kind of reflective of what you need. So, for example, I suggested at the end of the last webinar that we might do a webinar on EIS, electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, and we probably will. I know that Hasim is very interested in us talk specifically on amperometry and potentiometry. So, give the feedback to us, and then we'll guide the presentations and webinars towards that. But that only happens because you're a member of the network. And as I say, today, I just wanted to draw your attention to the reference electrode conversion. And I think it's probably worth saying that if you go to the knowledge base and you go to the FAQs, we have a lot of material under here. So I do understand it's quite hard to always find what you're looking for. But under this electrochemistry, under the converting reference potentials, I do have a bit of a video about this as well. So you'll have this webinar to look at later on. And then if you want to kind of understand reference potentials a little bit deeper, there'll also be material there. Or that video there will also help you. So in summary, thank you for being members. Please help us in terms of directing the kind of material that you want. I wanted to keep this, well, I'm going to do this webinar next Thursday as well. So this will be the same place next Thursday. It's not intended to be long or heavy. It's just intended to kind of give you guys a sense that, you know, we want you to be part of this. We want to hear from you. We do want to give you value. So we want to, you know, answer questions that are technical and talk about the technology. So, you know, come to us with any questions. So I am looking at the chats here. I can see Hasim has made a few chats. What I'll say is I'm going to wrap up now. I just want to, if you've got any questions, maybe come into the Discord channel. We'll get you in here and we can have a chat session in there. But yeah, so I want to say thank you very much. I appreciate you guys being, you know, the original members, let's say, of the ZP Developer Zone. I know this is something that's really important to Hasim and I, so we do appreciate it. And we'll do exactly the same thing next Thursday. We're going to get better, and so we'll do some general chat, but we'll also do some technical chat as well. And then the last Thursday of the month will be the big 1 hour webinar where we'll have live experiments going on as well as part of that. All right. I appreciate it, guys. And I shall chat to you and see you next Thursday.